All right. Hello, everyone, to another workshop of the Build on Hackathon workshop series. And in this workshop, we have with us Robin from the Avail's DevRel team. And Robin is going to walk us through that how we all can deploy a Avail-powered rollup in just 15 minutes. So that's a very bold claim. Let's see that Robin can, keep up that claim and show us that how we can quickly deploy a rollup in just 15 minutes. And this is very topical as well. People are deploying new chains, new rollups here and there. So this is going to be very helpful for you all who are looking to deploy a new rollup or trying to do something with app chains during the hackathon. So Avail has about or exactly $5,000 worth of bounty to give away during the hackathon for different causes. And Robin will also walk us through that, what you can do to grab a buy out of those $5,000. So I will hand it over to you, Robin, so that you can walk us through about Avail, the rollups, and show us all that what we can do to grab a chunk of those $5,000. So over to you, Robin. Feel free to greet the hackers and take the stage. I mean, it's all yours.
Yeah, hello everyone. Glad to be here. Yeah, so like Sahil mentioned, I'll be trying to show you how to deploy a rollup really quickly. Maybe it might not even take 15 minutes to be honest. But because but yeah, so first I'll just go through about what Avail is, what we kind of enable you to do, and then we'll go through some of the code snippets that help you and the steps that help you to actually go and deploy an arbitrum orbit chain, which is one of the quickest way to actually launch a chain. So yeah, I mean, I guess we can get started.
Yes, sir.
Just let me know when my screen is visible. Or
Yep, it's all good. You can
okay,
see your deck.
awesome. Yeah, so I'll just okay, got it. Cool. Oh, okay. So Avail DA, right? So I'm the developer relations from Avail, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Avail DA, which we like to specify it as like the first step to unifying Web3. But what is Avail exactly, right? So Avail is this modular tech stack or platform, uh, if you like to call that, for rollup builders to overcome key challenges in scalability, interoperability, and security. And basically, we just enable developers to build highly performant rollups. Um, so how do we do this is we have like three vertically integrated solutions in our tech stack. We have Avail DA, which is a data availability layer for rollups, for trust minimized applications. Then we have Avail Nexus, which is going to be this interoperability layer on top of Avail DA that allows you to connect different rollups with each other, and have them talking to each other in a sense. And then we have a Wave Fusion, which allows you to have additive crypto economic security for your rollups as well. But for this hackathon itself, we'll be focusing more on Avail DA, which is the data availability layer. We are on mainnet since July of this year, and we would love to see you building applications on top of Avail DA. So data availability is basically, if you're not that familiar of the modular space, data availability is just this way for um, rollups to make sure that whatever transactions or state changes that are happening on that rollup is that the data behind those changes are being recorded somewhere, and it is available whenever someone wants to come and verify it. So if you think about how optimistic rollups or zk rollups work, uh, in both kind of constructions you need the data behind the transactions and the state changes to be available somewhere, so that if anyone comes in and wants to actually verify, the state changes, they can do so. um, and we basically allow rollups to deploy rollup builders to deploy rollups in a cost efficient manner, and also in a scalable manner. So the real bottleneck for rollups are usually data availability, or DA, and not execution, right? Because if you think about it, rollups basically decouple execution from everything else, the consensus and data availability. But execution is, like, people are making like bold claims of around 100k TPS nowadays. That's all good, right? But even if you have a sequencer, a beefy sequencer that does like 100k transactions per second, it does not really mean anything unless the data behind those transactions are available. And that means that the real bottleneck of scalability is data availability, and Avail solves this by having expandable block space. And we also ensure trustless verification of data availability through light clients via a technique called as data availability sampling. And we use methods like erasure encoding and KZG commitments of the data to make sure that everything is easily verifiable, making it. And because we use KZG commitments, you can consider as more ZK ZK friendly, right? Compared to other constructions or other DA solutions, which use maybe fraud proof methodologies, or are just a DAC, which is just a group of operators are trying to make say that they have the data, right? And so I know I just went quickly through what modular and what data availability is, but as a builder in this hackathon, you really do not need to understand all of those concepts. You just need to understand that you can deploy, you can basically submit data to Avail, which Avail will make sure is available, and you can fetch it and retrieve it anytime, right? Um, from a hacker perspective, that's all you need to know. You submit data. This can be like proof, or it can be, if you're deploying a rollup, this means it is already inbuilt and integrated, so you don't have to worry much about it. Wherein, like, the block data of your rollup is being submitted to Avail behind the scenes. If you're building like a ZK application, this would mean like you can maybe just create a proof of that whatever execution that you're doing, and then you can send the proof of that to Avail, maybe even the inputs, so that maybe someone else can verify it and all of that, right? So what can be built? You can build anything, like real world assets, gaming applications, ZK applications, DeFi applications. And the powerful thing of Avail is that it supports complex environments, and it's not just EVM focused, it's VM agnostic, meaning that you can use an EVM or a Solana virtual machine or a Move VM or a Wasm based machine or anything like that, right? Making Avail, like, because Avail does not interpret the data that is being submitted to Avail. Uh, so any VM can like execute transactions, take the transaction data, and just dump it on Avail. So that's how you can maybe think about it in a general sense, right? And some of the stacks we kind of already support and are well integrated with are like OP Stack, Arbitrum Orbit, Polygon CDK, ZK Syncs, ZK Stack, Madara from Stockware. We have the Stacker SDK, Rollkit, Cosmos DA model, and Sovereign SDK. So if you want me to break it down, like OP Stack, Orbit, CDK, and ZK Stack are EVM based. Madara is Cairo based. Stacker SDK is JavaScript based. So if you want to actually just deploy, if you don't want to go through a lot of hassles of having an entire EVM, you can just deploy a Stacker SDK rollup. That means you just use JavaScript, and using JavaScript, you just have to define the business logic, or like the logic of the state transition functions, and you can have your own micro rollup, is what they call it. And then Rollkit and Cosmos DA module are for like building Cosmos based chains, and Sovereign SDK is to build your own sovereign chain. So these are some of the stacks and frameworks that we kind of support. But more importantly for you, from a hacker perspective, how can you use Avail in this hackathon, right? So first thing and the most optimized thing that we are built for is building a rollup, right? So I don't know if my background can be seen. DYOR is also not only do your own research, I'd like to call it as deploy your own rollup. And nowadays, it's very easy to deploy a rollup. The harder part is to bootstrap an ecosystem around it. So actually, if you want to, you can actually deploy a rollup. I think even QuickNode has a RAS platform that allows you like to deploy a rollup in like a click of buttons, or you can just do it in a you can just deploy it manually yourself, and it doesn't take a lot of effort from anyone. So how it would work in a rollup perspective is you as the user, you are deploying your rollup, and the rollup is already integrated with the Avail. So whenever you do some transaction on your rollup, the block data is being automatically being sent to Avail DA. This means that you will obviously need an Avail wallet and some funds on the Avail network that is connected to this rollup infrastructure in some way. I will go through all of that really soon. But essentially, you know, it's very simple. You have a rollup running, you submit some data, it goes to Avail DA, right? The next way you can maybe kind of think about it is you have some application that needs data to be published, right? So data availability might be a term that you might not really understand, but you can just think of it as a data publication platform. So you want to publish some data that needs to be publicly available, and if anyone wants to look at the data, they can, and they can verify the data, based on your use case. So maybe, for example, you're using a TLS notary or a ZK TLS notary, right? And you are grabbing some data, creating some proof of that data. You can maybe submit that data to Avail DA if you want, or you can submit that proof to Avail DA if you want. Which brings me to my next point, that you can build any application that needs to be proved, and you want to store that proof and or that data, right? So how that would mean is like you have your application, and this can be like a Rust based code if you want, for example. The advantage you get of writing in Rust would be that you can maybe run that code through a RISC-0 or an SP1 ZK VM, which is just a VM that allows you to compile and execute and prove Rust code, um, and create ZK proofs out of it. And you can submit that proof and that data to Avail DA, and then you can do whatever you want to do with it, right? So just imagine as Avail as this big bulletin board, wherein you have something that you want everyone to see, and you want everyone to like to be able to verify it, and it's available, right? So that's how you can maybe like a mental model of how you would think of Avail DA. So I guess you might have a question of why build a rollup or an app chain. Um, that would be so you might have already started building your applications already in this hackathon. So just think about if you are building like a game, for example, or a real world
So
asset.
Robin,
Yep.
sorry to interrupt you. There is a question exactly related to this from Carl, which and Carl asks like, what should I or why should I deploy an app chain as a hacker? How would it benefit my submission, or would it benefit my submission at all? So I'm pretty sure that you must have seen a lot of examples in past hackathons where Avail has participated in, where hackers must have deployed an app chain or a rollup for a specific use case in their project. So if you can, I'm pretty sure that you are about to get on those points, or you are already about to cover those points, but just wanted to bring this question in front of you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a great question, right? So, I mean, yeah. So, like I said, so why would you want to deploy rollup is um, there's a couple of things here, right? So, the problem with actually deploying on a public chain is that you have to basically share block space with each other, right? Right, sharing block space means that um, all right, you're deploying a dex, that's fine, or if you're deploying a game, that's fine. But the problem is, as you receive more traction, um, you are still competing for resources from everyone else in that chain, right? So uh, you might have seen this already in real life, right? So what happens is that when there is probably a very anticipated meme coin drop or a NFT drop, right? Everyone's on that network, they're trying to put in their transactions on chain, whereas you are some other application who's completely unrelated to that NFT or meme coin drop. And the problem now becomes is the entire block space of that general public roll up, like it can be base or it can be anything else. The problem now occurs is that the people who want to maybe use your application, their transactions are getting rejected, or the gas fees becomes too high, and all of that nonsense, right? So one of the key advantages you have of deploying a rollup or an app chain, as you can say, is that you get a dedicated throughput and dedicated block space. So this means, like, if you think of it in a way that um, you are basically creating your own basically not a silo, but you're basically creating your own zone, uh,
Your own
where
ecosystem.
yeah, your own ecosystem or a zone wherein people who want to interact with your application come in and they kind of interact with it, and it still gets settled on the main L1 or L2. So if you're creating an orbit chain, for example, you can deploy an L3, for example, all of that. But essentially the main idea is you get dedicated throughput and dedicated block space, which is really important. And one of the use cases I think this will be really important is if you're building something like a game or something that requires like smooth UX and quick finality, like quick confirmations, right? Finality can be like debated here and there about what is real finality, but
Yeah,
from a very user perspective, finality is when that block, when your transaction is submitted, it is in the block and it is there, and the user does not have to care anything about it anymore. Everything else is the roll-ups job to do. So that could be considered as maybe soft finality, right? So that if you want to have that kind of quick finality, you would if you are maybe on a public chain like base today, it still takes probably like a couple of seconds, 3-4 seconds to still get your transaction through there, right?
yeah.
Even though it is a very big chain, it's a quick chain, all of that granted, it still takes time. But if you have just your own block space, the pro of that is that now you can
But
someone does a transaction, as soon as they do it, it is confirmed, it is gone, because there's no one else competing for the block space. That's pretty good,
and the
right? So
thing with
yeah.
Yeah, and so you mentioned gaming and base, right? So I always give this example where if you are a game, you will need faster transaction confirmations. But if you are like banking, but if you are in a banking into a banking sector or banking use case or financial use case, you might not, I mean, in some cases you might want faster transaction confirmations, but the most and foremost important thing for you is security and transaction settlement on a very decentralized and trusted chain. So that so use case specific deployment or use case specific development is also another you know pros of making an app chain. For example, you gave an example of base, right? Yes, it's very fast, but it's still being used by a lot of people and a lot of different kinds of use case. So just imagine a chain just specific to your games and just processing the transactions from your games users. That's going to be very fast compared to even the fastest of the public blockchains.
Yeah, definitely agree. So, like, I think the proper analogy here is, I think, taking this from Anurag, co-founder of Avail, where that um, roll-ups or app chains can be like basically what we could assume, things to be moving forward in the near future, is that roll-ups are no longer going to be like a big, like it's more or less going to be acting as servers, right? you can't expect the world's transactions to be running on a single server or just a handful of servers, right? It does not work that way. People build their own they rent out their own servers, they host their applications on specific isolated environment, and if they need to talk to each other, they do. And that is how like distributed computing and all of that works, right? So you can think of rollups or app chains in this particular sense as servers that kind of processes and does everything that your application needs to do. And then if it wants to talk to each other later on, it can do that. And people are building like these interoperable layers. Like if you build with Avail, you will eventually be able to connect with Nexus, which is in a POC stage right now, but eventually you will be able to do that. So yeah, just thinking of that, that you have all of these application specific, use case specific chains that you build, which basically more or less access servers for your application, where it does all of the computation and then you get the output for it, right? So that is, I guess, a best analogy for it. um, yeah, I mean, also another thing that I guess you can get with that is like you get your own flexibility on how you want that chain to be. Like for example, um, you want this new EIP, like, or like if you want to have account abstraction on your chain, but um, maybe XYZ chain does not support that, but you like to be part of their ecosystem. What you could do is now you can like write some kind of a precompile, or you can basically modify your own chain to have account abstraction, but be also part of the entire of that rollup cluster community, right? All of that kind of stuff. You can set your own custom gas token as well. So when you actually deploy a roll up for actual masses, this might be something that you want to consider, and all of that stuff. And also alt VM support. You can have any roll up with any VM, and it kind of works, right? So that is why you want to build a roll up or an app chain. So yeah, I guess now it would be like really cool if you now try to think of how your project that you're building and you have been building for a few days, and how that plus Avail DA can contribute to a unified Web3, right? Because what we are trying to build here at Avail is to build that unified Web3 ecosystem, which is credibly neutral, and it connects all ecosystems, right? So that's why we connect with OP Stack, with Orbit, with Polygon, CDKs, zkSync, and all of that. So that's something that we really want to do. Now, when we come to like the bounties that we're trying to we'll have for this hackathon, is one that building your own custom app chain using any rollup SDK integrated with Avail. So I've already mentioned all of the stacks that we have integrated with. So you can deploy an app chain for maybe a consumer application, or any innovative use case, like ZK, LLM, robotics. You can use Stacker, ZK Sync, Arbitrum Orbit. So, you have all of these options out there. And then you have core tooling projects. So what core tooling would mean is like these are not exactly projects wherein like you are deploying a rollup, but you've gone through the Avails ecosystem. You see there are things that can be improved. Maybe you want to build a dashboard for Avail, like for validators, or one thing. So Avail is built on Substrate. So if you're familiar with Substrate, you can maybe even like look at how to automate this so when validators take the rewards are not automatically claimed, so they'll have to manually claim it. So you can maybe create some kind of a project that allows validators to automatically claim their stake, their rewards from their stake. You can create a DA cost calculator, right? There are different DAs out there. There's Avail, there is Ethereum, there is other DAs out there. You can create a cost efficiency calculator. Like you can just take the per MB cost. You can estimate it with Avail. You can estimate it with Ethereum blobs, EIP 4844 blobs, and other DA layers, and you can maybe create some dashboard out of that. Maybe you saw all of these stacks that we have, and you see that there's a lot of steps to maybe sometimes to deploy it. Maybe you want to dockerize some of these. Maybe OP Stack has you have to deploy like 4 different components to actually deploy an OP stack chain. Maybe you want to dockerize all of it and create like a CLI based tool to kind of do it in like one command or like 2 3 commands, and you can do that. Right, maybe even app chain explorers, where you can fetch and view states of multiple different rollups defined by app ID. So avail avail block is basically it's like a normal block itself, but essentially the block data contains a data metrics, right? So so we have a metrics which in which all of the data that is being submitted to avail, or what happens is all of the data is being partitioned or segmented according to app ID. So an app ID is an app or an application ID. It means that every rollup that is deploying or like submitting data to avail will have their own unique app ID. This means that you can now filter from each block just the data that rollup has submitted. So using that, now you can build maybe some kind of an explorer where for each different you can maybe deploy like 2 or 3 instances of a rollup, maybe create a dashboard that shows that okay, this rollup has deployed this data, and rollup B has deployed this data, rollup C has deployed this data. Maybe you can just fetch the entire block and just visualize all of the different app IDs within that block yourself. Like you don't have to even deploy a rollup. You can just fetch using the RPC, the avail blocks, look at the block data, and create some visualization for the different blobs that are being sent to avail. So there are a couple of things that you can maybe do there. And then you have if you're just a smart contract developer and you don't really want to get your hands on any of this roll up infra stuff, we also have a track wherein we've already deployed an OP stack avail powered chain for you. And you'll find all of the details like the chain ID and all of those details of that chain in this link here. It is also on the DevFolio site that you can find all of those details. Basically, what you can do is just deploy your contracts there of your smart contract application, and and then yeah, just verify your contracts there on Block Scout. So there's already a local Block Scout Explorer, deployed for that specific rollup that we have spun up for you. So you can just deploy your contracts there, get the contracts verified, show how it works, and if it is innovative enough, we'll give you the prize, right? So just so that you can understand how it all works, and you can be part of this ecosystem as well. And then finally is that as you are building with the whale, we would like to know what your experience was. So give us your feedback, which is something that we really need to always iterate and make things better for you as developers. So like test out the different OP stack, ZK stack, Arbitrum, Orbit. We've got different SDKs to directly. So like all of the different OP stack, ZK stack, Orbit stacks, all of these would are like rollups that you probably build, and they behind the scenes already talk to avail. Or if you are just not going to be deploying a rollup, you are probably just submitting data to avail in some way, you can use avail.js, avail.go, or avail rust. Like these are just SDKs that allow you to communicate with the RPCs and the nodes. It's a node API you can just use to communicate with the avail network directly, and you can submit data using it, you can retrieve data using it, you can do other stuff, you can transfer balances, all of that, right? So it's basically the node API. So it's the SDK for the avail network, so you can use that, test it out. If you find any difficulty, let us know. Yeah, I mean, just uh, give us feedback, and if we find any feedback that is really good and really valuable to us, we'll award you this prize, right? So if you're ready to win, let me know. And yeah, so that's that. I'm just going to pause for a bit if there is any questions about this,
Yeah,
and I'll
there
be
is
on.
a question.
Yeah, yeah. Let me
Yes,
know.
sir. So there's another question from Carl, and he asks that can I deploy an app chain with Pi USD or PYUSD being the gas token, and can it be considered for both the hackathon prizes? So PYUSD, which is PayPal's USD. They also have a track for the hackathon. So basically, can that token be used as a custom gas token, and the hacker can apply for both the tracks?
Um, I mean, I guess you could. So what you would have to probably do is, I'm not sure if PyUSD is supported on. So
Ethereum
I
and
think,
Solana.
like,
Ethereum.
which testnets is it on? Is it there? Is it there on any testnets? I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't really make sense to have it on a testnet, but
yeah,
I guess, yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't want people to. I wouldn't suggest obviously to deploy a rollup on mainnet. So I don't know how you would
yeah,
bring that to bring PyUSD to a testnet. So I'm not sure about that. But if you want to, like, kind of create a dummy PyUSD token or something like that, or you can deploy PyUSD contracts if it has any special features there. So basically, what you can do here is, on Arbitrum Sepolia, you can just deploy that contract, and when you're spinning up an orbit chain, which I'll be showing you how to, there is an option to define what the custom gas token is going to be. So you just have to put in the contract address of that, and once you do that, when you deploy a rollup, that contract address, whatever token is that contract address, becomes your native gas token. So as long as it is an ERC20 token, you can do it, but it should be there on a testnet, is what I would say. It can't be on mainnet. Like, it can be on mainnet, but again, then that means if you're deploying a rollup, you'll have to bear the mainnet costs. So that is a completely different thing, right? So just letting you know about that. Yeah.
yes. And then there's just another question from my side. Um, So for the first bounty, you mentioned that people can create their own action using various app chain or chain stacks or chain frameworks we have available. And you mentioned that Avail supports a lot of them, most probably all of the major ones, right? So
Yep.
according to you, or from Avail's point of view, do you think there is or there are pros and cons to those stacks, or it depends that what kind of use case you are going for? So does the stack changes from use case to use case, or just what's your view on choosing a stack, or what when should I choose? Let's say that when should I choose Arbitrum Orbit, or when should I use ZK stack, or when should I use OP stack?
Got it. Yeah, 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 sure. So the most general case of things, if you're choosing an EVM chain, it doesn't really matter as much. So I think one advantage of having a ZK sync stack or a ZK stack here is it has inbuilt account abstraction. So that means it has support for account abstraction from the get go, whereas CDK, Orbit, OP stack does not. Um,
Mhm.
but I'd say that personally, I felt that Orbit is the easiest to deploy because almost everything is Dockerized, and just have to, like, run the script, and it's up and
Yeah,
running. So from a hackathon perspective, that might be very easy to do. Um, Orbit is also having, like, Arbitrum has like around 250 millisecond block times configured. So that means for gaming it is really cool. OP stack is sometime, I mean, you can configure it for 250 millisecond. I guess they have somewhat close, but not exactly 250 millisecond. I'm not sure exactly of the numbers. So I mean, from an EVM standpoint, most of them are more or less the same. It does not matter if you're using CDK or like a ZK rollup or an optimistic rollup. It does not really matter from an hacker perspective when you're actually going and deploying. If you have plans to take your rollup to, you know after the hackathon, you want to keep building it, then there might be some business decisions, like optimistic stacks are much cheaper to maintain over a longer period of time, whereas ZK rollups are sometimes a bit costlier because you have to run like a prover and verification costs because of the ZK proofs that are being submitted. But all of that aside, from EVM standpoint, you don't have to worry that much. But now, if you want to maybe have you like Cairo, you are like from the Starkware, Starknet ecosystem, you like to write Cairo, so then you can deploy like a Madara based roll up, or like if you don't really like to have any of this EVM solidity stuff, you want to just focus on your application, have a micro roll up that is just application specific. You just define business logic in JavaScript and TypeScript. Then you can just use Stacker SDK, which is also very easy to do, and it is very quick to do as well. And I can also help you get in touch with the Stacker team if you, because it's a bit of a newer paradigm. Whereas when it comes to an orbit chain or whatever, what you can do is just you just have to spin up that roll up, and you have a very familiar EVM environment. That means once the rollup is up, you have the node URL, and you can now connect that RPC endpoint of your rollup to MetaMask or whatever wallet you use, and then you can deploy your smart contracts. And so, what do you mean by an app chain in that sense? Is basically in an EVM stack like OP stack or Arbitrum stack or Polygon stack or ZK stack. What you mean by an app chain is basically just you're spinning up an EVM chain and you're deploying a contract there. That is all you basically call by an app chain in this context, right? So if you're just already writing a smart contract based application and you think it would benefit from some high throughput, deploy a rollup, and then deploy your smart contracts on that rollup. That could be like a really cool way to probably increase throughput of your application. But I mean, that's just me. But yeah, I hope that kind of gives you an idea. I mean, you can also look into the Cosmos ecosystem like Rollkit and Cosmos DA modules and all of that if you want to build like a Cosmos team. But I guess it might, I mean, it depends on what the builder wants. So you have the options to kind of choose.
Yes, I mean, I think hackers should have a really good idea or starting points that what they should consider while choosing a stack based on their requirements or the scope of the project or the future scope of the project. So those were some great insights, Robin. Thank you so much for sharing them.
Cool. Do we have any more questions, or can I move on? Or
You're free to continue. We don't have any questions yet, but we might get some as we move on.
okay, sure. So yeah, so what I'm going to be showing really quickly now is like I'll just go through our docs, right? Just to show
Yeah.
you, give you a quick run through of our docs. So if you go to docs.availproject.org, you'll land on this page. Uh, so you can see we have a couple of things here. If you don't really want to go through all of this, you can just go to click docs here also. That's also fine. Anything that you want to do. As a builder, you want to maybe try out some stuff. So, or like you want to see how you can build a roll up. So you go down here to build with Avail, and when you click on that, there is a couple of options here, right? So in overview, we go through all of the different stacks we support, like Optimium's, like basically optimistic rollups with Avail DA, OP Stack, and Arbitrum Nitro, Validiums. Then we have the sovereign chain. So everything, all of the docs are linked over here. So it gives you a good overview of like everything that we have. So that's cool. So also, if you're deploying the DApp on the Avail-powered rollup that we have, you can find the details of that over here. I'm not going to go into that page right now, but yeah, I mean, like, I guess I can. So if you're deploying a DApp on the Avail-powered rollup, if you're going for that track, if you go to this page, you'll find everything that you need to know. You'll find the link to the Explorer. You'll find the chain ID. You can connect your wallet, and you'll add this network to your wallet. You can then bridge Sepolia ETH to your wallet here. So if you go to bridge assets, it should work. If it is not, I'll get that fixed. Oh yeah, it's here. So yeah, you can just bridge Sepolia ETH to your testnet, and that should work as well. So if you're doing that track, well, that's great. Okay, so now you want to probably submit data to Avail. So if you go to interact with Avail and you go to this example called data submission, we have some examples on actually how to do this. So the code implementation is here. We don't really need to go there. If you want to, there is some examples here on GitHub. That's also fine. Then now if you want to like deploy an Arbitrum Nitro chain, right, you can find the step by step guide on how to do that. Like you want to pull this Docker image, git clone, all of that, and I'll go through this real soon. And then, so yeah, for every stack you'll find all of the options here. um, that's also there. One thing I also want to mention is that we have this thing called as a vectorx bridge, which is this zk based bridge that we have that can send arbitrary data from arbitrary messages from Avail to Ethereum and Ethereum to Avail. um, I mean, this may not be useful for you. If you want to do something with this, you can. We have some bridge examples also somewhere listed out over here, so you can maybe look into that as well. Yeah, it's there on our GitHub here. So, I mean, yeah, this is um, just something that I wanted to show. But again, now if you're using, um, you're not actually planning to deploy a rollup, you just want to interact with the whale directly, and you want to submit some data, right? You have some project, you want to submit some data to a whale. How do you do that? You will probably need to go to API reference here, and in API reference you can see how you can deploy data or submit data to Avail using Avail.js, or if you're using Avail Rust or Avail Go. Anything you want to do, you'll see the parameters that you have to fill, if it is optional or not, what it returns, an example of how to do that, all of that, etc. Right? So, um, that being said, now we have also a thing like I mentioned, right? We have a thing called as app ID. So app ID just means that if you are building an application and you're submitting data to Avail, what you can do is you can make sure that your data is segmented from everyone else, right? So having your own app ID means that later on, if you want to filter a block for your own app ID, you can do that quite easily. So yeah, so that means now you can, like, if you're just building some project and you're sending proofs, and you want to retrieve that proof later on, you have to first create an app ID on Avail. All right, and you can do this programmatically if you want, and I'll also show you a website soon on how you can do that. So you can create an application ID, and then after creating an application ID, you can submit data using a specific app ID, right? So now you can submit data. So basically, in the options, signer options, you kind of mention your app ID here. When you kind of SDK or data availability submit data, and submitting data is pretty simple. It's just you import this SDK. You basically connect to a node. You have a wallet basically set up. So then you initialize the keyring. You basically have the private and public key, and then you set up everything that you need for the transaction itself. So you have the data, which is in this case my awesome data. You have the app ID, and then you create the options for that, the signer options. And then what you want to do is, like, you call the SDK, you create the transaction in data availability submit data, and when you do that, you just add everything over here. And once you do that, you can then do the transactional handling as mentioned over here. So it's pretty easy to submit data to Avail. um, and extracting data is also pretty simple to do. How do you now create an app ID? Why, like when I mentioned how you can create an app ID, how do I create an app ID? So if you go to appid.availproject.org, you reach this magnificent website. And initially, you might, when you actually hop onto this page, you might be on Avail mainnet, which you don't really want to do, like, which you may or may not want to do. But like, if you don't really have mainnet Avail tokens, it doesn't matter. um, if you're on test net, like, you can switch to testnet. You can connect your wallet, and in this case, I probably have a wallet somewhere connected. Let me change that really quick. Wait. Yeah, I'll just use this, I guess. And hello, Bill on. So basically, what I'm doing is here is, the application IDs are stored in a key value format. So that means that your value is going to be the app ID, the number itself, and then you can fetch it anytime you want using this key that you're gonna provide. So if I create a key with the name of hello build on, I might get transaction which I haven't initialized my wallet properly. Let me see if that works now. Okay, proof, proof. Okay, cool, cool. I mean, that should work. Yeah, all right. So we got a transaction happening. We got our app ID here, right? So what I did right now is I created an application ID for myself, and the app key itself is hello build on. So even later on, if I want to fetch my app ID, I forgot what my app ID is, but I know what my app key is. I can use that to figure it out, and the owner is here, right? And I mean, later on, if you don't really remember either of those, we can search through all of that. If I go down here, you'll see that the latest one is this. So yeah, I mean, this is how you can create an app ID really simply. um, okay, so we have that, and then now another thing that you can do is, as a developer, you probably want to test some of the, like, interacting with the whale really quickly. So how you can do that is, if you go to explorer.avail.so, this is our, I guess you can call it a developer friendly explorer. So you might initially be on Avail DAM network. So if you are initially on this network, Avail DMA net, you probably need to switch to Avail Turing. You click on it and click switch. You'll be redirected to the testnet version of it. And for, as a developer, what you can now do is a couple of cool things. So if you go to chain state, maybe basically this developer area allows you to look at whatever features that we have on our SDK, that Avail.js or Avail Rust or Avail Go provides. All of that you can test out without programmatically doing so. So you can first test out some dummy transactions here and then do it programmatically, right? So for chain state, that means you're just querying data from the block. So you can get a timestamp from the chain, or for example, you want to get the balance of a particular account. So for my, or I've already got an account here called tester2. I've so on system dot account, I'm going to query my account, and I'll see that I have around, this is again, you have to I guess cut around 18 decimal points or something like that. So it's around 4.889 avail tokens, right? That I have. um, you can also now go to extrinsics, which is a fancy word of saying that specific functions or transactions that you can do on Avail. um, so if you actually want to go to submit a data availability, you go to, you pick the data availability extrinsic. And you remember that we now just created an application ID. We actually created that by using this create application key uh, module here, right? So what we did was we input our hello build on thing. And so whatever we did on that website we did before, it is basically the same thing here. We call create application key, and we can submit the data from here also, the transaction from here also. How you actually submit data is, now you can actually basically call data availability submit data, and you put in the data of hello, and I hit submit transaction. Now you'll see over here in this dialog here is that you can mention what app ID you want to send this data from. So I believe my app ID was 174. It defaults to 0. You can submit data from app ID 0. That is completely fine. It is the reserved and the main app ID for any general purpose extrinsic. Anything above 1 means you can only do two data submissions. You can't do anything else. So suppose I want to just submit data on app ID 174. I can do that. I approve the transaction, and it should go through in like around 20 seconds. 20 seconds is block time. That's fine. Anyway, hope you got a quick gist about how this works. um, if you want to create an avail account of something like that, you can just do that easily from go to account. And so basically if we go to accounts, You click on account, you get a seed phrase, you just save it somewhere, you click next, you give in your name, a password, and then you can just create an account. So that should be also fine, really. All right, so we've covered some of the main basic features of Avail. I think we are really, short on time. Maybe we have around 10 minutes. Let's see how we can deploy a quick roll up. All right, so I'm just going to switch over to my VS Code here, right? So we're going to be deploying an orbit chain because this is one of the quickest way you can kind of deploy a roll up. So you have some prerequisites that you need to have. So you need to have Docker, right? You need to have Docker on your system. Um,
Robin, just one thing. If you want to increase the font size a little bit so that our viewers
yeah,
can
1 second.
see a little bit better, yeah,
Okay,
that's
is that
yeah, yeah, a lot
is that
better. Yeah,
yeah? Okay, cool.
yeah.
All right, so you need to have Docker on your system, and then after having Docker, you also need to have some either Arbitrum Sepolia testnet. So if you don't have it, you can either bridge it from Sepolia using the Arbitrum bridge, or as I recently learned, QuickNode already has a faucet for that. So just use that faucet. It just makes your life easier. So get some Arbitrum Sepolia ETH, and then you need some Avail tokens on the Avail D network. So that would mean you have to go to faucet.avail.tools, where you can put in an avail address and get some avail, and you can be on your way, right? And then avail app id, I showed you how to do that. And then yeah, you just have to go to docs.availproject.org and just follow all of the details as mentioned in this doc right here. So right, let's just go here. So we have all of that. We need to make sure we have this Nitro image on our account. So what I'll be doing here is, I think I already have all of that with me, but I'll just do that again. I think I already have it. Yeah, it's up to date. I already have it. That's cool. Next up, we need to git clone into nitrocontracts.git and check out into this particular branch and install and build it. So I've already done all of this, so I'm not going to waste too much time into it. But if you do it on your own, also it's not going to take too much time. But essentially, I can now cd into Nitro contracts, right? And you can see that I have a couple of things here. Cool. So first things first, what you would probably need to do is you would need to kind of define your environment variables, right? So environment variables in this case would be, you need to set up a rollup creator address. You need to set up an RBScan API key, so you can get that from the RBScan platform. And then you need to have your, because rollup essentially means smart contracts. So you'll be deploying some rollup contracts on Arbitrum Sepolia. That means you need to have a private key which is funded, and you need to put that in the environment variables here. And then, yeah, based on the question that we received earlier, if you want to have an ERC20 token that is going to be used as the native gas custom gas token, you can put the contract address of that here as well, and then you're pretty much done. You don't have to do anything much other than that. That's it's actually pretty easy. Yeah, so once you have that, you also now need to create config.ts. So if you actually go to scripts in the Nitro contracts folder, if you go to the script folder, you will see a config.ts example file. When you initially get cloned into it, you just need to create a copy of it and paste the same data, and now you can configure any parameter that you want from this config, right? So um yeah, you can basically do whatever you want. But ideally, if you just want to deploy a rollup for your application and just get on with it, it's usually recommended to just keep everything as default. You can change, like, if you want to change the chain ID, you can, like, I mean, that I guess would be the most easiest thing to do. I can just create a chain ID like this and change that over here also and deploy it, right? So that's fine. So again, it depends on what you want to do. And then once you do that, all you have to do is, let me just change this up to, like, I don't know, one, two, and now just one, two here. I'm gonna save it. I hope I have enough. Yeah, I hope I have enough gas fees. Oh yeah, one thing I actually forgot to mention was that when you are defining your variables, this rollup creator address is actually something constant. So because you're going to be deploying on Arbitrum Sepolia, you have to use this particular address. So on Arbitrum Sepolia, there is already a rollup creator contract, and which is basically like this factory contract that will deploy all of the contracts for you, the other contracts for you. So you need to just put in this address over here, and you're pretty much done there. And yeah, once you do that, and you've configured your file, all you have to do is you have to yarn build for Joule, which will basically compile your contracts, right? And once that is done, you can yarn run deploy eth. Okay, wait, I think there might be a problem here. uh, Wait, yeah, I just need to pull those up. Yeah, okay, now that should work. Huh. All right, there might be something is wrong initially, but I guess it should be working because I did it a few minutes ago. But all right, essentially you will have to deploy your contracts, and yeah, my bad. Yeah, okay, now that works. Cool. All right, so you've compiled the contracts, and now you want to deploy it. Wait one second. Right. So I'm just going to pull that command, put it here. Essentially, now you're going to deploy your ETH rollup contracts at the network Sepolia. You're going to run deploy ETH rollup, which is going to be a script that's going to do that for you. And yeah, it'll just probably take some time to actually deploy those contracts. You'll get some addresses that are going to be really important. So if you actually see here, we'll see that um, yeah, we have a rollup proxy contract being created here. So you'll have to save all of these details, just like I've saved my previous like previously I ran the same thing. So with a different chain ID, of course, if you try to deploy multiple times with the same chain ID, it's going to fail for obvious reasons. So I mean, like, eventually, once all of the contracts are deployed, you will have an output that comes out like this, which will have like your rollup proxy contract, which will be verified. You have an inbox contract, outbox contract, rollup event inbox, admin proxy, sequence inbox, bridge, contract, validator utils. All of you have all of these details here. And now, eventually, let's before we yeah. So once we do all of that, you also get the block at which it was deployed. So you have to copy and paste all of this somewhere. Just save it somewhere. Keep it safe because you'll need it later on. So once we do all of that, what do we need to do? We need to now set up, we need to download the Orbit setup script. So that is a script that allows you to just deploy Orbit chains really quickly. So you just git clone into that, and once you get cloned into it, so let's see, I've already get cloned into it. I have it already and set up. So basically, you go to config, you go to this config over here, and you have to basically create two files. One is a node config file, and then the other one is an Orbit setup script config.json. So both of these are JSON files. Now you're at this point, what you're doing is you've already deployed a rollup contract. You are going to now uh, run your node that is going to be functioning as this rollup of yours. And for that, you need to do some configs, right? So I'm just gonna view this into app. Yeah, all right, so pretty simple stuff here. Yeah, so all you need to do is, initially when you do this, you'll have to uh, right, what your chain ID is going to be, what your chain name is going to be, and then you'll see that yeah, in this roll up section you'll have to define, what the bridge is, who the initial chain owner is, what the chain ID is, what the inbox address is, the sequence inbox is, roll up address is, validity units, all of this, everything that you already received in this output below, and it's already there. You just have to copy and paste these addresses, and it's pretty much done. And then if you scroll down, um, yeah, so if you scroll down, again, this see this garbage, it's there's nothing in that, so it's fine to show it on screen, I guess. So yeah, if you scroll down in the node config, so again, where do you get this node config? You basically copy and paste it from the docs. So we have a dummy version of this already over here. So you insert all of those informations like I showed earlier. Oh yeah, you have also see in the batch poster and the staker uh, part as well, you need to insert private keys. These are EVM private keys, like whatever your MetaMask or whatever you're using, the private keys of that account, of that wallet. And make sure that the batch poster and staker are two different private keys, um, because otherwise it won't work. So both of these should be unique from each other. And then if you scroll down to avail, you can just enter your avail seed phrase, um, and then whatever app ID you have, and then just yeah, just use a quick node, app sepolia, WebSocket URL here, and you're pretty much done for it. Once you have all of that ready, you need to also set up an Orbit setup script. So if you actually go to Orbit setup script here, again, you can copy and paste the sample, paste it over here, and then fill in all of the details that you've gotten from here. So again, all of these details are the same ones. So they are asking you the roll up address, the inbox address, what. So if you have changed what the fee token is going to be, you might have to change the native token. And yeah, everything else is again ditto, 1:1 from what you have already deployed. So you will have all of the details with you without any issues. And once you do that, now all you have to do is go to Docker Compose. So in Docker Compose, what you'll see is that initially this will be an off chain. So if you go down here to Nitro, um, you'll see that initially it would have been something like an off-chain labs image, which you'll have to change. And from the docs, you can just pull this. You can pull this avail image and you can paste it here. And yeah, that's all you need to do. And you are pretty much ready. So if I go to Orbit setup script, okay. All right. And now, once you have that ready, now you can uh, run your rollup, compose, up, and your rollup starts to run. So what we have done already is we deployed our contracts after git cloning into the Nitro contracts folder. After we deploy our contracts, we git cloned into an Orbit setup script for directory or repository, right? And then we created two JSON files, a node config JSON file and an Orbit setup script JSON file. And then we just change the image in the Docker Compose YAML file, and we're done. In the node config and the Orbit setup script, you just put in the addresses of your rollup, um, right? And then once that's done, you have everything that you need. Um, then your rollup should start running, and then you can also get the logs of that rollup. I'm not sure if it'll run now. Oh, okay, but wait 1 second. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Okay. So yeah, so it'll take some time to initially when you're running your node. So what you can see here is that now I've set up everything for my node. I've started my node by running the Docker Compose up, and it'll take some time to actually sync with the the base chain. It'll take some time to sync, but once it has synced, it will start sending data to Avail. So it might take some time, but it's fine. Or if you don't have enough avail in your seed, or if you don't have enough avail in your account, then also it might fail. But otherwise, if everything is good, it should start working, and you have your own roll up with you. And I guess if you go local host, not 3000, if you just go to local host, you should probably have an Arbitrum local explorer. So if you're running your node, just as I just told, you will have your own Arbitrum local explorer, which is a Block Scout explorer. So I don't know if you want to do something cool with this, because Block Scout is, I think, is also one of the sponsors of the hackathon. So you might want to do something with it. You can look at the transactions and all of that. um, these are the contracts that I have already deployed before. That's why we have some transactions here. Otherwise, it should be empty. But yeah, I mean, you have a local explorer for yourself. Um, Also, the smart contracts. Sorry, the the rollup that you're running, that I'm running right now, is running on 8449 port. So if I want to like probably go to remix, uh, and maybe actually, let's see if this would work. Let me see if I've got a counter contract here. Maybe I have compiled it. All right. So let me see if I can. Okay. I think this may or may not work, because I'm not sure if this is the updated chain ID or not. But essentially, you can just deploy your contracts, and let me see if it works. Confirm. Yeah, I'm not sure if my RPC is correctly configured on my MetaMask. I'm not sure if it would actually properly work, but anyway, you can just in your MetaMask just put in the exact configurations of your chain, and it should all just work. Yeah, I guess it does not work properly because I've not configured my MetaMask properly, because I've changed the chain ID. But that's fine. When you're doing it for the first time, it should work as it should work the first time. I've just mixed two things at once. That's why it's probably not working, but that's fine. But yeah, essentially the chain should be working. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it from my end. If you actually go through this, I mean, like, everything that I covered is actually over here. Now if you want to actually deploy contracts and all of that, you need to bridge some tokens to your rollup, and for that there is already this command that we have. So you just have to put in your private key. We have a public Sepolia rollup URL. We have the L3 are, so basically what you've done is you've deployed an L3, and your node is running on 8449 port. And then you mention the amount that you want to bridge, and then yarn deposit, and it bridges in a few seconds, and you can start using your rollup quite easily. And suppose you want to like get back or like refund your um, tokens that you've bridged over, you can just use this command. And basically, when once you're done using your local orbit chain, and when you get and you want to get back your Sepolia ETH, you can just run this command, and it will send back everything to you. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I've probably gone over by a few minutes, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any questions.
All right. Yeah, Robin. I mean, it was very comprehensive, and the demo was very good. Thank you so much for taking us all through that. And I'm glad that the demo gods were happy on you, and you had their blessings today. So everything worked out. So yeah. So for everyone who's watching this live right now, uh, feel free to drop your questions if you have any questions related to what Robin just covered and demoed, or if you have any questions related to Avail or related to Avail DA or the docs, because Avail has a lot of different kinds of bounties. So you can check out the Avail bounties in the comment section below if you're watching it on YouTube. And if you have any questions related to that, just drop them in the comment section, and Robin will try to answer them. Yeah. So, Robin, looks like we have a lot of people watching us, but I mean, what I can say is that you have done a very good job at explaining it already. So they might not have questions. That can be a case. But if you
Not
have
that
questions,
interesting.
yeah, but I would assume the former rather than the later one.
Mhm.
So yeah, the thing is that if you're watching this after the live stream has ended, you can also ask questions on the Discord channel of Avail. We have a dedicated Discord channel on our server, which is named as Avail Partner Hackathon. So if you have any questions related to Avail, or if you have any questions related to this workshop, feel free to drop them in that channel. And there are Avail team members in there who will be more than happy to help you with your questions. Yeah. But if you want to get your questions answered live, you will have to ask them now. Yeah, Robin, I would say that you have done a very good job at explaining everything, so people do not have any questions.
Well, I hope that's a good sign.
Yeah, there can be two extremes of this, but I would take the positive one because the demo was very good, the workshop was very good, the explanation part from the deck was very good, very precise and very comprehensive. Everything was very comprehensive. So people should be very clear when they watch the stream about the bounties, about the offerings, or about what they can actually build using Avail tools. So, all right then, Robin, if you do not have anything to share more than that, we can conclude over here.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for, hopping into this workshop. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you have a better understanding of what Avail is, and this whole roll up space, right? And yeah, I mean, if you are planning to build an Avail, if you have any questions, like Sahil said, just drop it in the Discord. We're always there to help you out there. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can say deploy your own roll up.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, yeah, I mean, there are some unique bounties being offered by Avail. So even if the thing is that even if you're not a developer, or even if you do not did not end up creating a project, there's also a bounty where you can go through their docs, try to replicate those sample apps, try to replicate those examples, and provide your feedback over there. Even then you might qualify for a bounty which is of $500. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, over there. So there is something for everyone from Avail. So make sure to give it a try and have a chance to win some cash. Because who doesn't like cash, or especially in terms of hackathon bounties?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've tried to cater to everyone here. So if you want to build a roll up, you can do that. If you are just wanting to deploy smart contracts, do that. If you don't want to do either, look at our docs, give us some feedback, and we'll improve it. Like if you probably tried and it didn't work, and you're maybe frustrated, let us know, so that we can improve it, right? So I guess that's at the end of the day, that is what hackathons should be about. Just communicating with developers here and there, like together, and yeah, we get feedback and we help you out building your projects. So yeah.
Awesome, then. I think that'll be it. And thank you so much, Robin, again for joining us and for this amazing demo and explanations. Yeah. I hope that the hackers will see you in this club.
Yep.
All
Yep, they
right.
will.
All right. Thank you so much for everyone who is watching and everyone who has stayed with us until now. And happy hacking and all the best for the hackathon.
Okay, bye bye.